What is up, children? If you're not on the live stream, get on the live stream unless you're outside partying right now, which honestly, all of us should be. Chase Atlantic named #1 top artist by Next Big Sound. It is Pandora's sort of artist-breaking algorithm. And they literally have named Chase Atlantic #1 based upon all sorts of stuff, aggregate information from streaming, socials, people reposting links, etc. So the boys are blowing up, and we just so happen to have their #1 song off this last record. So let's go. Flying to Ableton. Whee! Let's get into it. Let's go to the vocals. So the main vocals themselves actually sort of went through this process, and I'm going to kind of break it down to you right now. So basically, as we know, we've done a little bit of vocal work before, but the problem is oftentimes there's a lot of stuff in a human voice that becomes problematic with the more compression that you apply. Little blips and blops, lip noises, breaths, like shortened breaths, all kinds of weird artifacts that, as much as we might think that we're hearing all of that stuff, so often there is a human being on the actual material itself, chopping, editing it, automating it, and this is all pre-processing. So, which explains why you get a Grammy for doing this work. It is such a big thing and takes so much effort and is an art on its own that it's an entire career with just doing this type of work. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that we needed to get out of there, and then I'm going to talk about kind of the processing. So I'm going to try and go through this as easily as I can. This is kind of how the vocals would originally come in, and this is the treatment that we're getting back from her. And I know it might not seem like a lot, but look at the amount of changes that we have between these two. So just this versus this, you can see that there's being edits happening to actually come in here, break this stuff, and turn these down. And you can start to see how those begin to look similar. There's changes all over the place. If we just keep going through this, it's not only timing, because she was like, well, how much timing stuff should I do? And I'm like, well, look, I trust your judgment. You know, I know. And this is, by the way, a very rare scenario. Most of the time, you don't have another person doing this work. So as I describe our relationship, what you're going to find is that it's the same stuff that you yourself need to do. This breath, this is a breath. Yeah. See? You can listen to this one. Let me show you what these two sound like different from each other. Obviously, this one has some processing on it. Have a listen. Yeah. Red eyes, black dragon. Yeah. Hear how soft that is? Listen to this. Yeah. Red eyes, black dragon. Yeah. Red eyes, black dragon. So what she's actually doing, and she'll explain more about this, is going in and actually fading in the breaths. Sometimes we're like, oh, do we want to remove the breaths? That's the first question. Like, how much of this do you want hyper pop or not? And so the more artifacts, the more human you leave in there, the less pop it gets. The more you take it out and you just leave the little things, the more, humanized and real it is. And obviously, the more you polish it and the more you take them out, that's when it gets more pop. But you can also see here, little lip noises, completely gone. This sort of plosive in the beginning here, this like big attack point, all that stuff has to get trimmed. And so what begins to happen is it looks an awful lot like kind of like opto compression got applied. But then in other sections, she's actually added breaths. No breath?
Red eyes, black dragon, yeah. Red eyes, black dragon.
We have another breath that she added in there to make it seem more human. We have tailing in between these words, pulled off all of these little things. They're gone. It's this micro editing over and over, little additional breaths added in for more humanity. Fading off of this stuff. Look at this. Look at how this word ends here early. Check out what is inside of that space. So, and again, I'm going to go through exactly why she's doing this. So this is just the seed planting, children. Listen.
Gus.
She's like, that all that weird undulation of the throat, she just took off. This is why she has a Grammy, and this is why I hired her. Yeah, it is absolutely bonkers, the type of work that she's doing, taking out some of the F's here. You can see that the energy has been reduced in here. Let's keep going. This gets more tailed off. There's some connective tissue here now, so it doesn't just drop to nothing. We have this, the entire start of this word or letter has been truncated. What is that now?
Damage. I can't feel my legs, that I'm damaged. I can't feel my legs, that I'm
Nice.
standing. I bet
This little thing here.
I can't feel my legs, that I'm standing.
Little bit of tailing with the
Make it
breath.
down the stairs.
All this stuff. Look at how gnarly this was to begin with from the performances. Check this out.
I can't.
You get, and it's like part of pop culture, this type of effect, the type of performative, like Britney Spears does it all the time. It's like huge in pop. I forget, there's an actual name for it as well. I bet she'll know the name. You can see how she's gone in and just decided what part of that needs to still exist. Let me just find like a good loop point here.
I can't feel my legs, that I'm standing. I can't feel my legs, that I'm standing.
Other
I
side.
can't feel my legs, that I'm standing. I can't feel my legs, that I'm standing. I can't feel my legs.
It'll just break up. And her knowledge of this stuff, of what to leave and what to keep, and how to keep the things or how to leave the things, is why you get a Grammy for this. Because you don't even know this happened. You have no idea that somebody came in here and got rid of that. Or that somebody threw over here, and let's find another one real quick, because there's tons. This guy, I think I may have cut that off, softened that a little bit, but you'll start to find as you compress more, as you treat more, that more and more of these types of treatments need to happen, not only to sort of maintain continuity in the track, in the performance as well, and just also to nail the frame. When you start thinking that we're going to apply piles of compression to any of this stuff, and you have elements like this that are sticking out, or elements like this that are sticking out, or elements like this that are sticking out, like this is all the way to unity here. You can see what she decided was, actually, we can get rid of most of this, start the word here, probably copy it over or pull it over. I mean, it looks like it's still pretty much the same, obviously up until here, although this does look like it's been edited over. This looks like it got pulled over here. Yep. Then this probably got pulled back that way. That probably got pulled back that way. And there's the crossfade right there. So you can see that there's like reorganizing letters to exist in alternate places, and this is why she has to come on and kind of explain her methodology and talk about why she makes these choices, or sort of what they are, and we'll go through this stuff. But basically the process for me was, you can tell I'm not even through the first verse. This is just the first verse, and the number of edits are in the double to triple digits. it's also its own job. So doing the record in the amount of time, like this is possible for anybody to be able to do. You need to learn the techniques. You need to understand what parts of the words to cut away. You got to understand when to cut them away. Where in the chain are you cutting them? Are you doing this after processing or pre-processing or post-processing? When does this happen? But basically, once you understand the process, then it's just human power. It's time in front of the machine. And for me, in the scenario of this record, I did not have the time to go through all of the vocal takes and do the editing like this. It was just insurmountable. And to be perfectly honest, I am much happier having Natalia on board to do it. She's better than I am at it. She has more experience than I do at it, and she can work in parallel with me. So the way the vocals showed up, so if you're going to start this process, if you want to do this, my best advice is to start off with generally, like, you know, she'll go in and do some of the editing on her own. I know she's probably got a different take than I do, but for us, especially when it comes to like getting the tuning right, we wanted to make sure that like the boys were confident in the vocal production baseline before it ever came to us. So that means some basic compression, basic leveling, basic EQ, and all of the tuning and timing if they were needing to do it. Some basic timing, making sure that they were able to sign off on the performances. So this wasn't going to be like super raw or required a pile of work reconfiguring vocals to nail the performances that they were going for, as well as the tuning. So they were doing Melodyne, they were doing auto-tune, both Melodyne and auto-tune in that order. Melodyne first, then auto-tune. Then the next thing was lots and lots of compression, some JJP shit. They love the JJP vocals. And I believe also some just like baseline SSL stuff, just lots of compression to get the vocals pretty much this big and fairly continuous. I mean, you can see that there is some pumping and breathing. There's some space in the compression. It is not just bricked or flat. They have some performative qualities to it and some dynamics. But for the most part, it is massive. Then the next move for us is that we're going to take these things and compress them even more. We're going to go one level deeper. And so I had to get the timing fixed. I had to get all the vocal plosive fixed. I had to get all the little intricacies and in-betweens sorted out so that we could have a clean and pristine vocal to do the next part of this process with. And that's why I handed it off to Natalia, just because she is the queen at this process.